Are you doing that? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I just decided to start. Ooh, check this out.
Hi, everybody. We are sharing what we're doing for Halloween and or Dia de los Muertos, including pet costumes or people costumes, and or sharing them in the chat.
Look at this.
Welcome.
Cat finally.
A cat, yes, a cat finally made it. That's great. Equal representation here.
Sharktober.
That's super, super
I'm trying to
clever.
figure out how to new screen share. Anyway, stop sharing. Anyway, go for it, you guys.
Okay, well, happy Halloween. Happy early Dia de los Muertos. We are excited to kick this call off. We think you're all in for a treat today. I'm Irene Chance Wong, Grant Specialist at Maddie's Fun, and here with me to introduce herself is Allison Cardona.
Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Allison Cardona with the UC Davis Correct Shelter Medicine Program, and so thrilled to be here with all of you.
And does anybody have any more? Our question of the day was, we want to know what you're doing for Halloween and our Dia de los Muertos. And people have been sharing their pictures of their costumes or their pets' costumes in the chat or just talking about it. So we do want to just hold a little more space for that if anybody wanted to share some of their customs or festivities today. No, we got a good fill on our costumes.
I can share my, well, this was from
good.
a couple of years ago with my special dog, where I was the bumblebee and she was the flower. And we made paper mache like flowers to put all over her. It was lovely.
Oh, the duo costume. I love that.
Ooh, looks like more folks are putting, yes, voting, early voting. Love it.
Yay. Any contests at your shelters or rescues?
Nice. Nicole King, sounds like you hold an event. And is that, I was going to say, is that a title entry or a turtle entry? So Nicole Holt has a turtle entry. Do you mean that the turtle gets dressed up or someone dresses up as a turtle? I guess it could be either one.
A mutt strut. That sounds really fun, Gina. It does seem like Halloween was pretty much all month long this year. I don't know about anybody else. So events held throughout the month though, and that's today's our last day to celebrate. So if no one has anything else they'd like to share verbally, we can go on to national updates.
Hi, this is Sheila from Maddie's Fund. I wanted to let you all know that we have a Maddie's Insight webcast this Thursday, November 3rd at noon Pacific time, where Dr. Lisa Gunter is going to be talking to us about some of the work and research she did with emergency foster caregiving at the beginning of the pandemic. She'll be talking about key takeaways from her work, and she's done lots of work in addition to the emergency fostering over the past couple of years. But takeaways for foster recruitment, trial adoption programs, caregiving practices, and behavior support that can be utilized to improve and grow our foster program. So looking forward to seeing some of you there. Thank you.
Stacy here with the Community Cats podcast. Hello, everybody. It's good to see all these familiar faces under all those cat ears. So it is very exciting to see that. I'm playing the role of podcaster today. And so anyway, this coming Saturday, we have the TNR certification workshop at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And that's where folks can get certified. You can get your volunteers certified on the basics 101 of TNR, trap, neuter, return. And then on November 12th, we have a free webinar that is Return to Field, the Community CAP program. So talks about how to be strategic with your community CAP programs or with community CATs in general. Happy to share swag about both of those programs. You can just email me at stacy@communitycatspodcast or go to communitycatspodcast.com. Thanks all.
Hey, Allison, do you want to talk about your Power of Yes?
Sure, absolutely. And there's also another something. Well, yes, I'll talk about this first. So we're doing a webinar on November 10th, and it's all about saying yes, removing barriers to adoption, and being more inclusive. And if you're doing these three things already, we will send your shelter a basket of cookies. So stay tuned. It's live, and then it'll also be recorded, and there'll be some modules. So hope you'll join us. And then separately, and I'll put it in the link as well in the chat, CARE is hosting a panel on November 7th. I believe it's at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, about pro-partnership, which is, I think will be an exciting panel and a really good talk with some folks from different communities. So join us then, and it's a Facebook event.
Awesome. Well, sign me up for some cookies, Allison, please. And just as a reminder, since it is the last day of the month, don't forget to watch our Maddie's Candy Conversations on demand and enter to win our monthly giveaways. Up to $10,000 is given away, and so we'll announce the winners probably next week. Thank you. And if there are no more national updates, I think, Allison, we can introduce our speakers.
Thank you. And yes, just making sure that we posted that in the chat. So it's really an honor that today we have two wonderful speakers to talk here. James Evans, who is the founder and CEO of CARE, Companions and Animals for Reform and Equity, and Marilou Chanrasmi, who is the Care Center Chief for the Northern Tier for CARE. And for anyone who was at the Access to Care Veterinary Conference, they got to see this in person, and we're so delighted that both James and Marilou will be here to talk about the origins of animal welfare and how we got here with the problems that persist today, and to talk about partnerships and deep listening. So it's an honor to know both of these incredible humans, and welcome, James and Marilou.
Hi, Allison. Can you guys hear me okay? Good morning. Happy
Yes.
Halloween. I don't see Marilou. Marilou is in there somewhere. Oh, there you are.
I'm here. I know. I was looking for you. Although your
How are
name,
you?
except your name says Johnny Jenkins.
It does?
Yes.
It's Halloween.
It's Halloween. Okay, got it. I was just like, maybe that's why I couldn't find you amidst all these.
I don't know what that is, but here I am.
Wonderful.
So you wanna jump in to start, Marilou?
Sure. Happy to do that, James. All right. Well, thank you everyone for having us. Excited to be here. And I'm going to kick off our presentation on partnership, not servitude. It's always an honor for me to share space with James on this. So thank you, James, on this, and Maddie's for hosting us. So I am going to, and who is controlling the slides? Is it Jen? Maybe hop to the next slide.
Jen, I think you're showing the presenter's view and not the actual presentation screen. I think you have to share your other monitor. Whatever monitor is got the bigger image on it. There you go.
There we go. Perfect. All right. Perfect. All right. I'm going to begin first with, I'm going to read this, but as I read this, I want everyone to just not just listen with their head, but listen with their entire body. We believe in community. We believe that partnership begins with conversation, respect, deep listening, and an open, non-judgmental heart. So deep listening.
There is still.
Jen, you can go ahead and move to the next slide, please. Thank you. I've had the honor of learning about deep listening. The first time I ever heard the terms deep listening was from a friend of mine, an elder at Leech Lake, tribal nation up in northern Minnesota. And many have probably heard of active listening. I don't know how many have heard of deep listening. For those who have heard of deep listening, I won't be able to see everybody, but just, if you can just put in the chat, that you've heard of deep listening and what it is. I'm going to go ahead for today, just kind of like share what is the difference? What's the difference between active listening and deep listening? To me, active listening, which became kind of a hype for a while, is where it's more two-dimensional, where the focus is on listening to the other person. And it's verbal and nonverbal. You're trying to watch the cues of the other person. And oftentimes they try to summarize and they want to make sure the other person is heard. How I would describe deep listening is three-dimensional, maybe even four-dimensional, where you're listening with your mind, body, heart, spirit. You're listening also to what's happening inside of you. So if somebody is saying something to me or saying something to you, and the word they use triggers something inside of you, and you go off somewhere, you're not really listening anymore. Becoming aware of that. Right. So deep listening is one way you're listening to yourself, you're listening to the other person, you're listening to what words are said, what words are not said, you're listening to the space you're in, you're listening to the environment. So it's very, circular and holistic. What I'd like to do is solicit 3 volunteers. And I actually, Jen, go ahead and stop sharing if you don't mind. I can kind of like see 3 volunteers, and if nobody volunteers, I'm going to like quickly pick. So if you can make a noise, you have to be on camera if you're going to volunteer. And then put your name in the chat. And then Allison, if you can, yes, you have to have your cameras on.
Right. But I
And
don't
then
see any
Allison Gibson is
volunteers
going to
yet.
spotlight you.
Tim, sure, are you volunteering? Why don't we just go ahead and make you a volunteer?
Yeah, just exactly. That's what I did at the ASPCA conference.
Okay, sure. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for volunteering, Tim. All right, so first volunteer, second one.
Let's see.
Okay.
Yay, Nicole.
Nicole volunteered.
Just a
And
minute.
then Allison, you can also spotlight me.
Yeah, just a second. Well, why isn't it spotlighting? Sorry, I'm trying to get
And then
Nicole
one more
spotlight.
volunteer.
Add spotlight and
Oh,
okay, so
Nicole.
it takes
All
us the first time we've really done this in a
I
minute.
think that's the different Nicole. I think you want Nicole T.
Okay, Nicole.
Okay, sorry, Nicole T.
Nicole, you're like, I didn't
That's okay.
volunteer. Yeah.
Sorry, Nicole.
For you to volunteer if you're happy to volunteer.
Okay, let me just spotlight. Add, and I'll take out your remove. And then
All right.
we'll make sure that,
Perfect. All right.
oh, okay.
Okay, thank
Fairly
you.
outdated, right?
All right, now I am just going to pick somebody in the interest of time. I'm just going to simply pick somebody who's going to be volunteer number one. So Tim, since you were the first one that was volunteered or voluntold, I'm going to ask for you for 75 seconds. So I have a timer that's going to go for 75 seconds. I'm going to ask you to speak on a word that I'm going to share in a moment. Nicole and Stacy, your job is to listen deeply. When Tim is done, I'm going to ask you to share in one sentence or two what was the key takeaway, what was the essence of what Tim said. I don't want you to summarize what Tim said. Okay. All right. Tim, 75 seconds. I'll raise my hand when it's a minute, when you have 15 seconds. I'd like for you to speak on community. Yeah, go.
Oh, I think community is quite important. It keeps society together, not just as individual, but it's kind of more difficult now, I believe, with transportation and cars, because you kind of lose that community living in your house. You drive from your house out. So there's not quite a lot of events that are happening that brings a community together. You're kind of like I guess, a person on your own island. So I kind of feel actually disappointed about how, especially today, Halloween is, that when you drive around the city, you don't see a lot of houses decorated anymore. It's kind of disappointing. Christmas lights. I think overall, I've always had a thought that maybe holidays should be not mandatory. I kind of feel, because just by forcing somebody to decorate the house, you kind of feel like the community. But nowadays, like, you drive out, people just don't decorate anymore, you know? So I feel like the community we talk about is just in storybooks and everything. Sorry to make you so sad, but I just wish that we like, even this is my first time to join this group. So I kind of feel like you start here, but it's not your neighbors, you know? So hopefully we can do better with people around us.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Tim. All right. Stacy, I'm going to pick on you first to share what was your key takeaway.
So the first part was Tim sharing about sort of from almost an urban planning perspective of what community meant to him and how it has changed. And then the second half was focused on how holidays have represented something to him regarding community that has maybe changed over time.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, so my key takeaway was that Tim's overall feeling is that community is defined by a sense of connection and togetherness amongst people, and that holidays are really kind of a way to visualize that and see people come together, and that overall he's feeling disappointed in the shift that's happened with that kind of lack of in-person connection and participation that started to happen in the last few years.
All right. I'm going to offer mine, if that's all right. Tim has a longing for deeper connection during the holidays. Period. Now, there's a million things I could go into, but then, you know, so I'm just going to give you a, you know, to share why I did what I did and sort of like my observations. But that you will have to consider for future. Kara is going to be holding future listening circles around this so that we can go deeper on this. But I appreciate you volunteering and your openness to volunteering, and invite you and those who are on the witnessing on the outer circle to just notice and pay attention to what it is that came up for you as you are hearing Tim speak, and you're, you know, watching also those who are listening. All right, with that, thank you both. Now you can, I guess, unspotlight us, however it is, Allison, that you can. And I would like to, James, if it's okay with you, hand it over to you.
Hi, everybody. I think for some, deep listening and a conversation about serving versus servitude might seem disconnected, but for us, they're very much connected. In fact, without deep listening, there is no partnership. That is one of the principles behind partnership versus servitude. Jen, you can go to the next slide. Servitude is a really interesting word. It has two sides to it. Obviously, this is a picture of slaves, and you should take special note at how many dogs, companion animals, working dogs are in this scene. What's interesting about the scene for me, by the way, is that emancipation happened long after animal welfare. Animal welfare predates emancipation. It predates women's rights. It predates children's rights. Animal welfare and the concern for animals as a society, as an organized entity, predates most of our what we would consider civil rights. And I think that in many ways that is still true. You can still find the essence of that concept in animal welfare, in the lack of really partnering with community. So often during the advent of care and animal welfare organizations making Black Lives Matter statements or social justice statements, you would notice in social media posts, people saying, well, that's mission creep. What does that have to do with animals? This is animal welfare. This should have nothing to do with social justice. And so that the essence of where animal welfare comes from is very still consistent today in how we approach community. You want to go to the next slide, Jen? Servitude denies both parties from being their whole selves. Isabel Wilkerson, famous in my mind anyway, author of The Warmth of the Suns and Caste, she mentions in her book that to put someone in the ditch and to keep them in the ditch, you have to be in the ditch alongside them. And so the idea of serving versus partnering, if you're constantly serving someone else, that person you're serving is not showing up as their whole self, and neither are you. This is why partnership is so very important. You can go to the next one, Jen. So as you all know, we have a ready coursework, racial equity, diversity, inclusion coursework. We do not call it DEI coursework because DEI prioritizes diversity. And this country is already amazingly diverse intentionally. That's the whole reason this country exists, is the desire for getting out of one's country and moving to another one. Diversity is what built this country. And so we don't suffer from a lack of diversity. So we put racial equity up front because that's truly what we need to focus on. But in part of the Ready coursework, we asked folks what they thought of the word welfare. And here are some of the terms that come up. Assistance, help, poverty. There is nothing in here at all in the term welfare, and which is why CARE doesn't use the term welfare to describe our work. We use human and animal well-being. there's really nothing in the terminology that speaks to, sorry, Rocky came to see me. There's nothing in that word that speaks to the genius or talent or agency that we find in so many communities that we are attempting to service. And so again, serving, if you're in the mindset of serving versus partnering, you are going to miss all of these incredible leaders. You're going to miss people that are doing their version of animal welfare and applying their version of compassion with their community. You're going to miss that because you're going to be too busy trying to give people something that you think they should have versus deep listening to what they already have and what they could possibly be sharing with you. Animal welfare, as the name implies, is built on delivering welfare rather than partnership. And so this shows up in many, many different ways. Still today, even though I think we've been advocating for this for years now, at least 2, the images that you see of animal welfare or serving or community outreach, it so often has white Americans serving people of color. We very rarely do you go to a website or a seminar or a conference where BIPOC leaders from around the world are talking about what they're adding to this animal welfare. So often what you see are the images that are up on the screen, and are essentially this idea that people of color need animal welfare to serve them, to help them, to assist them. And I think if we really take the time to look and listen to these communities, we will see and hear incredible proximate leaders doing amazing things for their communities every day. CARE has helped to start, I think, 15 or 16 non-for-profits in a matter of 18 months, all of them BIPOC, all of them amazing. All of these folks have been doing the work in their community for years, and I have never seen these folks presented at an expo or another conference of its kind. And so deep listening is sorely needed. Partnership, I think we're in the midst of covering that. I hope everyone sort of gets where we're going with this. I love this definition: partnership, a relationship owned by 2 or more persons who agree to share the profits and the losses. And so we are encouraging you to partner with your communities. I'm not going to stop sharing, but just we can take account later. Just mentally raise your hand if there's someone on your board right now that is from an underserved population, a population that is fighting poverty. So often our communities, our organizations are in places where we're attempting to serve folks that don't show up on our board. They don't show up on our SLTs. We are not really deeply listening to those folks. And I know at our last conference, we asked this question, and I think out of the 50 people in the room, correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie Lou, maybe 3 raised their hand to say there was someone on their board or someone in leadership that was truly living under the poverty line. But so many of us are serving communities that are under the poverty line. And I think we have to ask ourselves why that is that we have not been able to find true partners and geniuses in the communities that we are, again, attempting to serve versus to partner with. Maddie Lou, you want to tell us what we're looking at right here?
Sure, would love to. So this is, community participatory research that CARE did. So Maddie, Rudd, my colleague at CARE, partnered with me, and I've been working with Little Earth of United Tribes for about 7 years now. And this has been a long relationship, a deep relationship, and they're my friends and family. But nothing, and this is what I love about CARE, being a part of CARE. It wasn't coming in, we're not going to survey you, we're not going to do this. A lot of times, and my friends at Little Earth have had so many groups coming in wanting them to do surveys, and not even knowing what's happening to the information. In this particular case, Maddie and Johnny, myself, work with the community leaders, in terms of nothing was done in the community without step-by-step coming up with the questions, the guidance. We weren't the ones that went door to door. We did a pet census study. It was the youth that went door to door, with an adult supervising them. We gave every single participant youth a gift card. The amount was determined by the community. The results, before anything was shared directly with the community first, we shared it with them, asked their permission. Is this something that we can then share with our trusted partners? Out of that, they said yes. And out of that, we learned some new things about that elders weren't able to, they needed cat litter, cat food. They weren't even able to get even to the pet food shelf that was close by. So as a result of it, we then started delivering pet food, cat litter once a month for the elders. Out of this also came a desire to have a pet health fair, which we held this past July. But everything was done in partnership with the community.
I think one of the things that came out of that I think is amazing is that so often when you survey a community that you're not partnering with, the survey results might be 10, 15%, maybe 30% if you're really lucky. But I think did we not get 80% results from this survey?
52%, which was still
sorry,
really
52%, which is really, really high. And so I think it goes to, again, ownership. This community completely owns the data. They completely own the process. And so often, and this is not to beat up on animal welfare, this happens all the time with NGOs and non-for-profits who come into community attempting to help, for the most part, I think, with the right intention. But the practice and the way we go about it is thinking that we are coming in with the genius, we are coming in with the ideas, and we're not checking in to deep listen to the community to try to figure out where they are. I think we're ready for the next slide. So one of those big examples, and we organized this talk as we were heading into a veterinary conference. And almost everyone, I think, at the veterinary conference was talking about One Health. And I think One Health is one of those key examples of both animal welfare and NGOs around the world attempting to service or to create a model. One Health is great. Yes, One Health has great potential. But One Health is going to have even more, I think, effect when it's not coming from one voice. The majority leadership inside of the One Health framework is white, is veterinarians, are doctors. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with doctors. There's nothing wrong with veterinarians. There's nothing wrong with being white. But, One Health is supposed to be designed around helping everyone, which means everyone should be at the table creating part of that framework so that there is ownership in the profit and the loss of what One Health is or what it should be. Go ahead to the next slide. So these are some interesting factoids. In our country with millions and millions of companion pets, there are approximately, and there's an argument for there being less than 60,000 small animal vets in this country, less than 1 million medical doctors, and I don't mean surgeons, I mean, you know, medical doctors that you would go to for your personal health. And so what I see, and I think what we see is this One Health model, just like many other models, just like, you know, a lot of the frameworks inside of animal welfare are devoid of folks who are actually community geniuses, pastors, bus drivers, teachers. I mean, I have not seen a consortium of teachers as part of a One Health model, and they're working with our children every day. And some of them are working with our children, you know, even during the summer. So I think it's important to note some of the largest models in the world are devoid of true diversity. It's not just animal welfare. For those who don't know, the One Health model was obviously we're using it, and it has lots of applications inside of an animal welfare companion animals framework, but the One Health model was really designed to combat things like COVID. It was actually designed to help both veterinary and medical doctors understand pathogens that can move from animals to people. And so you have, on both sides of that framework, you have medical doctors and you have veterinarians. And so as a model, right, that makes sense. The veterinarians and doctors should be connected and understanding how to stop the next pandemic. But even though the One Health model has been discussed and has been tweaked and has been improved, I mean, since the late 60s, most aggressively after the late 80s, when you look at these stats, look at the death around the world, and I'm sorry, and particularly the United States. Brown people suffered disproportionately to their white counterparts. Their white counterparts in this country are the preeminent leaders in the One Health model. So I think it's pretty clear what happens when all people are not a part of really important models. One Health needs to have multiple voices. If the field's singular focus continues to be serving needs, it will overlook community wisdom, resilience, and genius. I have the privilege of working with an incredible assortment of BIPOC leaders, not just at CARE, but we're also working with partners, proximate leaders that teach us something every time we're with them. They're amazing, amazing human beings. And I entered into the animal welfare field in 2008. And it's not until just this past week where last month, where I was at an event that the majority of the folks in the room were BIPOC leaders, incredible BIPOC leaders. And mind you, they're adding to the work that all of you are doing. And I think we have to ask ourselves why, or how is it, and really it's a why, that CARE has been able to create these incredible partnerships. And so often you don't see these proximate leaders anywhere else except inside of CARE's orbit. I think we have a lot of work to do and deep listening and focusing on human and animal well-being, and less of a focus on how we serve, but rather how we should be partnering with community. And I think that's the last slide. Do we have time for questions?
Yes, we have plenty of time. And I don't know if we got one from Norma. I don't know if you'd like to unmute and ask your question, or we can read it for you. It's up to you.
I'm sorry. Okay, yes, thank you. Norma Wallace out in Ohlone territory in California. Lately, I was part of a volunteer call with a struggling nonprofit. It's been in existence for 2 years. And there were a couple of specific voices talking about the need to add board members with a giving requirement. I've heard that before in the vegetarian movement, and I have always backed away from that as an exclusionary policy. I'd be curious about your thoughts on that. Thank you.
So I think that's a great question. And one of the interesting things that you all should know is regardless of the subject matter, most boards in the United States are primarily white and affluent. Affluent. And so BIPOC boards receive about 24%. BIPOC run organizations receive about 24% less funding and have about 76% less unrestricted funding. And so diversity on boards is a major problem. At CARE, we do not have any giving requirement for our board whatsoever. I think there's so many individual donors when you're actually partnering with people. There are lots of opportunity to bring in revenue. And so I can't help but agree with you. Definitely, if you're going to make it a requirement to be on the board and to be a part of leadership, to give at some, especially if you're giving at a specific amount, right? No less than 500 versus as long as you give $1. You're obviously going to exclude many people. And the same thing happens constantly, and not intentionally, but with volunteers. Most volunteers, to be able to volunteer, you need an abundance of time. And so my mom would have never been able to volunteer for a shelter or rescue because she was working 2 jobs already. And so becoming a part of animal welfare, many folks come to the field because they were volunteers long before they were paid. So again, it's just another one of those things we have to look at and deep listening to understand how we're not only creating barriers, but reinforcing barriers.
Thank you. Other questions or comments, you can put them in the chat. You're also welcome to unmute.
I think Michelle has her hand up.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can.
You can?
I can. Yes.
I'm having a challenge. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe you should put in the chat. But we can hear you.
Okay, well, great. So I'm so glad that this subject has come up because my organization is a BIPOC organization, and that has been funding for our organization in the community where we live has been such a great challenge. We have had other organizations come into our organizations, into our city, into our communities that did not live there, was not in touch with our needs, but we couldn't get the funding to help our community and do the things that we needed to do. So I'm so thankful that that is now coming up to the forefront, and that the support and participation for and with BIPOC organizations is now becoming a new thing to do, because I live in the community where I work, where I participate, and I was going to say where I serve, and I learned that that's a different terminology, but I see the things every day. It's not someplace where I punch in and punch out. It's in my face every day. So I'm very appreciative of the fact that we are now recognizing smaller organizations that are BIPOC organizations that need the support to do the work that we need to do in our community.
I really appreciate that. And you all should know that this is not anecdotal. Organizations that are white-led, that focus on Black issues get more funding than organizations that are Black-led, focus on those very same issues. So in short, CARE would very likely receive 20% more funding if a white woman was leading CARE focused on BIPOC issues. And it speaks to the lack of trust that not just community folks, not just everyday citizens, but there is a lack of trust even on foundational levels. I mean, foundational levels. This is not just about individual giving. This is about foundations that would go to a page like ours, go to the leadership, see my face or see another brown face and decide, I'm not sure about that. And so this is the reality of the effects of slavery, Jim Crow, and the criminalization of people of color. Slavery is something that happened in the past, but just like any starlight you see, those stars exploded millions of years ago, and we still see their light today. Slavery and Jim Crow are bombs that went off, and their vibration are felt primarily by people of color every day, even in the philanthropic space.
Jen has her hand raised. Hey, Jen.
I just wanted to call attention to a question in the chat. It says, it's so difficult to find a volunteer from underserved communities. She or he may be disabled, doesn't have a car, doesn't have a computer, doesn't drive, and works 2 jobs. What's your response to that?
I will let Maddie Lou answer as well. I think if you start out with bias in mind, that's what you're going to see. But that, to me, that question is, I don't think it's a reflection of deep listening to someone else. I think that's a reflection of deep listening to one's own biases. If you believe that the entirety of your community is somehow unemployable, because that's effectively what you're saying, I think that's what you're going to find. But if you go in your community and assume that there are people there that are especially designed to help you, you'll find those folks too. Now, let's talk about those challenges. Those people that are a person with disabilities or a person without a car, those to me are possible assets, right? Having someone in your community that is disabled, are they going to be able to walk a dog? Maybe not, but they can certainly talk to you about how to better utilize your space to accommodate people like them when they do want to come in and rescue a dog or a cat. If they don't have if they're on public transportation, that person might be the perfect person to talk to about where you should or should not have a spay-neuter event or a shop clinic. So, I feel like there is literally genius everywhere. And if those folks can't make it to you, go to them and glean some knowledge about what their challenges are and how you can address those challenges so you can get that person's genius into your organization. So I really don't think there are barriers that we can't get past. We certainly seem to find a way to get past barriers when those barriers are found in predominantly white communities, which are filled with their own types of barriers that we often look past because we need or want those community leaders at the table. So with all due respect, and I'm not mad at that question or the person who asked it, but I think it shows a lack of deep listening.
Yeah, may I just chime in, James? On that I agree completely. I mean, I think that my experience in working with the indigenous communities here in Minnesota, is really going in without any letting go of your judgments, whatever, truly listening. There isn't one, going in where you're sort of a vessel and ready to receive, and putting around any bias, whatever that there is, because are there situations where, yes, that's true, where they aren't able to because they've got a lot of other things going on? Yes. Are there cases where I've recruited some amazing volunteers in the communities that we're partnering with? So I agree. It goes down to like really deep listening. And I wanted to, if it's okay, there was one other comment about somebody posted about trying to get more BIPOC leaders to raise their hand to present at state and something conferences, presenters at future conferences. I would just like to give sort of my perspective on that, if that's okay. Is that on the surface, that might seem like a great idea. All right. My first thing that comes to mind is like when I did invite some of my trusted partners here to the ASPCA conference, is the space or the environment, animal welfare is so white, it does not feel like a safe space, quite frankly, for BIPOC leaders. So simply saying, hey, we want more BIPOC leaders to present, I think, there's still a lot more work that needs to happen, before we can even get there. But that's just my humble 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I agree completely. It's not easy presenting in a space that can be hostile, where microaggressions, even in the form of questions, can be lobbed at you at any time. And speaking as an African-American male who is often labeled or perceived as dangerous or angry, I'm in those spaces a lot, and I have to contain myself. Otherwise, I have been and have often been accused of being angry, anti-woman, even because a woman was asking me an inappropriate question. And so it's a really difficult space to be in. I think what we all have to grapple with, particularly those who are not of color, is to understand the way our society is grounded. Our society is grounded in, the epicenter of our society is grounded in the misuse of people of color. Misuse, abuse, and the criminalization of people of color. Slaves were not criminalized when they were in slavery. There's no crime in slavery. But once slaves were emancipated, the entire country, including the government, the police forces, everything that you know of as a fundamental part of the way we live, moved towards criminalizing people of color. And so not only criminalizing, but disenfranchising the intelligence of people of color. So when we're presenting, and I've been a business leader since 1999, I've been self-employed since 1999. This happens in nonprofit world, it happens in the for-profit world. People of color are consistently demoralized and disenfranchised when they stand up to speak. There's someone always standing up trying to present some sort of factoid to dismantle whatever that person is saying. And so when you're in a public space and that's being done to you, and you risk your organization and your personal safety being a little upset or a little angry, it's a lot to hold. I also wanted to just to self-testify for someone that's not here, that is truly coming from an underserved community. I don't know if any of you have ever had an opportunity to hear Bianca speak. She's one of our proximate leaders, When we first met Bianca, she was making under $30,000 a year with 3 people in her household. And Bianca is amazing. And even though she was barely feeding herself and working 2 jobs, Bianca still puts on a Thanksgiving giveaway where she gives food to people that are on home, that are not homed. She does a birthday celebration. She does Christmas giveaways where she gives toys away to people and their pets. And that's the kind of person you want volunteering in your building, even if it's hard for her to get there at a exact time. Maybe you should offer car fare or bus fare or an Uber to get someone with that kind of heart inside of your building.
Thank you so much, James, Marilou. I wish we could just spend the rest of the day listening and partnering together. I do want to say, as a BIPOC person in animal welfare, my deepest gratitude to CARE for elevating and speaking truth to power about so many experiences that we have had within animal welfare, and for creating a space, a human and animal well-being space. And I had the honor and the privilege to attend the CARE gathering earlier this month. And for those of you who were not able to be there, the live stream is available. I just reposted it in the chat. And we will continue this conversation on the Maddie's Pet Forum. And this was recorded today and will be available there. So deep gratitude to CARE, to James and Marilou, and to everyone else who listened today. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.